Hello everybody, my name is Omer. I'm an international student ambassador and this is a video on how to go about, your first flat. These are a couple of tips I wish, somebody told me before, moving in. Hopefully they can help some of you. If you already know all this, that's good, you're on top of your thing. But if you don't, stay tuned and hopefully, this could help you out. So tip number one is, when you're picking out your new place, you gotta be very careful about a couple of things or look out for a couple of things. Number one is either it's all bills included or not bills included. Second thing, is it furnished or unfurnished, right? If it's unfurnished, obviously you're gonna have to buy, the couches, you have to buy the bed, you're gonna have to buy all these other things. And, as a student, you need to be mindful of, when I leave, how am I going to transport or move all these different things? And in my new place, would I have to take an unfurnished place or furnished place? If it's furnished, what do I do with all the other things that, I've just finished buying for this year? Because those are big investments, right? And so I prefer to go with furnished. And it's because I'm an international student and, in the summer, I tend to go home. So when my contract ends, I usually have left and gone home, so I need to store my things, and the more things you have, the more storage space you're gonna need. If you're paying for the storage in a facility, then that's obviously more money each month or each week, depending on how the pricing are. Or if you have a friend who's agreed to store your things because they're gonna be here over the summer, or rented, depending on how your contract is set up. The more things you have, the more space you're gonna take up in their flat or house. So you gotta be mindful of that. Tip number two, so you've found a new place and you like the space and you're going through the whole process of the contracts and whatnot. You need to talk to your landlord or agency, right? So if you're in direct communication and dealing with the landlord or landlady, that's the avenue you're gonna go for. If you're going through an agency, you're gonna have to discuss with them. So for example, my current flat, we saw the place, my flatmate and I, and really loved it, but we had one gripe with the flat. It was the fridge, and the fridge was a mini fridge, and it was just not gonna be adequate for us. And having some free space was a deal breaker, right? And so what we did is we told the agency that, we love the space, but then can we get a bigger fridge before we moved in? And they agreed to pass on the message onto the landlord. And the landlord was like, all right. And by the time we moved in, we had a full-size fridge ready for us, and it was at no extra cost, right? Now, I say this because you need to be very, cautious about how you do this. So if you have to take up the space and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, the fridge is not adequate, then you force your landlady or landlord into having to purchase a new fridge. And sometimes they may not appreciate that, but sometimes if you give them a put time ahead, heads up, then they can sort of. Tip number three, maintenance and inventory. So you've just moved into a new place and things are looking great. It's very essential that you do your inventory check, right? You ask for usually a checklist. Some agencies / landlords will provide you with that because they do it, and some don't. And if they do ask for it, they will have done their own version, their own checks. So what you gotta do, I genuinely advise, you go through the list yourself, and then you say, this is there, this isn't there, or we found this broken, or this doesn't work as intended to, so that all parties are involved, right? And I like to take a video of the place because it does two things. The first one is, it shows you how the place, you're moving to was like before you got there, right? So that, when your tenancy is over, when you move out, I try to aim for that exact look, or you leave something the way you found it or better, right? And number two, what it does is, if anything was broken, on the video you have a timestamp. You moved in and you found it broken, so it's sort of an insurance thing, right? And let me use this analogy. Car insurance, right? You get car insurance so that in the event you ever get an accident, there's an insurance company that is going to take care of those bills and everything that needs to be taken care of, and you don't need to stress about what you're going to do next, right? So in this case, that video is just like insurance. If anything was broken or was not functioning as intended to, at the end, when the agency / landlord are doing the checklist, and your final moving out checklist with you, and they bring it up, they're like, actually, I found this like this, and here is the video with the timestamp and evidence to prove that it was not my doing. If it's without bills included and you're living with multiple different people, you need to have a way of splitting the bills, right? And so, there's several different apps in the Play Store and App Store. I'm not going to give any specific ones. Do some research, find some, and then read the reviews so that you know how easy it is to use their service, right? You can find that some are free, but then, if you ever run into an issue, the customer service is not that great. So, read the reviews so that you figure out, how good and how reliable these guys are, because there's people who have tested them and used them and have, given you this free review. So might as well use that information. So your place is not bills included, and you have to pay. There's all sorts of different combinations. So for example, our place, we only have to pay for water, electricity, and broadband, right? Some other places you may need to pay for gas, or you might find that water is included in the rent. You just gotta read your contract again. Like, I can't specify how important it is to read the contract. I know there's also the terms and conditions that everybody skips by when they're doing things. This situation, you really do need to actually read and know what you can and can't do, and in what situation who to contact and whatnot, right? Tip number 6, utilities. So for my particular case, in my flatmate and I have to only pay for electricity, water, and broadband or Wi-Fi. So within our contract, when you're signing your contract, usually gives you who your current supplier is for all the different utilities you have to pay for. So if it's water, it will tell you get your water from this and this from this company, and this is the certification to prove that it's this person. Electricity, here's your wiring, all those different information and whatnot, right? And so if you're still unsure about that, you can always call up your landlord or your agency and you tell them, hey, I just moved into this property. I'd like to know who my water supplier is. So in the case of water, there's usually 2 different suppliers. There's one who supplies your fresh water, so that's drinking water, and then there's another supplier that deals with the sewage and the drainage and whatnot. So you can just basically call them up. Most of the time your information will have been sent over by the agency to them so that they can update their records on who the new tenants are in the property, and they usually send you a letter. If they don't, that's all right. You can just call them up and tell them, hey, I just moved into this property. I'd like the account to be switched into my name, and then the bills be sent to me, right? So that's for water. For electricity, there's 2 types. There's prepaid and then there's postpaid. In my particular flat, we use prepaid. So we have a key like this. And so you take it to the convenience store and you ask they load a certain amount of money on it, which will appear as a token. So you load it on and then you go to your meter and then you slot it in. Yeah, you slot it in and then the token will be added automatically. Always make sure you get the receipt, because if anything goes wrong without that receipt, you cannot be helped, and the receipt has a P on it. If it's postpaid, then you just use the electricity normally, and at the end of the month you'll have a bill. Of course, do remember to call up the electricity company to tell them you have just moved in and you'd like the account to be switched over to your name so that you can get the bill. Most of the time it will also be mailed to you either at the beginning of the month or at the end of the month. When looking for broadband, you're going to realize there's about 18 or 24 months contract most of the time. So my recommendation would be to go into your web browser and write 12 months contract or 12 months student contract for by whatever supplier you've gone with. And then at the same time, go into Unidays and Student Beans and search for your supplier's name. And you might find that they have student deals that you can add or discount code you can add when checking out for whatever package you have chosen to go with. And that could reduce the monthly cost for your broadband package. Anyway, hope you learned something and that some of the tips were useful. Let me know, and I hope to see you again.